Hello everybody, I'm Corin Tomlinson from Greenwood Bonsai Studio here in Nottingham. I'm going to do a short presentation for you on one of my trees. This is a Japanese mountain maple. It's a multiple trunk style, like a clump style bonsai tree. And one of the jobs we're doing here at the moment in early spring is an early spring pruning and also repotting to get the trees ready for the coming growing season. So this particular tree was imported from Japan about 8 years ago. It's been in my collection since it was imported, and for the end half of last year we just let it grow. So it's got quite a lot of long growth on, up to about 150mm of long new growth. And at this time of year we want to reduce this back to trim it and tidy it up so it looks sensible and tidy for next year. In fact, you can see if I turn it around so you can see the front of it here, I've already started this procedure on this upper section of the tree, on this main trunk. I've trimmed the long shoots back on the apex and started to just do it on this right hand side. So then I can continue on this right hand side, just taking back some of these long shoots. There's the odd little dead shoot, twig that wants trimming off, and these longer ones where it's got long internodes, I'm just trimming it back to get shorter internodes, a more compact growth habit to the tree. And then if we go round, follow our way round to the rear of the tree here, same sort of procedure, shortening back to a bud just to bring this growth under control and make it look good for the season to come. With a good, clean, sharp pair of bonsai scissors. It's quite obvious the buds on these maples, so we're just trimming back to 1 or 2 buds. This will increase the twigginess and the ramification of this tree. Done this section here, so this is all done through here. A little bit just there to do, and then on this left hand side a few crossing branches can come off. This one here is a little bit too large and vigorous. Trim this back to a bud, a little dead shoot to come off there. This one's growing up too much. This one's growing out too much. Some of these are too long. Just try and work through it systematically. Up to the apex of this tree. Quite vigorous, this trunk, so just take this growth back on the top, and this will balance the vigour throughout the tree. The tree can then put energy further down the tree to some of the weaker points, and it will balance the vigour, and it'll have a really good year this next season. Okay, so I've just trimmed this tree, finished trimming back the new shoots and the long extension growth on it, and the next procedure was to repot it. So first things first, it's wired into the bonsai pot. So if I turn it round, you can see the anchor wires underneath the pot here, so we can just snip them off with a pair of wire scissors, like so. This will allow us to remove the tree from the pot, so hold the trunk carefully and just ease it out the pot, like so. I'll put the pot to one side for a minute. And then we'll start work on the roots of the tree. So using a chopstick or a root hook, I'm just going to comb the roots from the root ball outwards, starting at the trunk, working our way out towards the edge of the root. There's the wire that we've just removed. We need to take that out. This tree has been planted into Akadama, a Japanese soil, and I tend to repot my maples every 1 to 2 years in the UK when they're planted into Akadama. So this is probably, could have stayed in there for probably another 1 year, but I like to do them when they get to this sort of stage. There's a few roots that are encircling around the edge of the pot, so just by working round with a root hook, combing them out, we can tidy it up. And at the base of the tree, we've got a few weeds and bits and bobs, so I tend to use a wooden implement for this area because it won't damage the roots rather than use a metal implement. So a wooden chopstick or potting stick like this to comb and tidy this section away, get rid of these weeds. And then you can use either a bonsai bush, like a nylon bush like this, just to continue to tidy up. On a larger size tree you can even use like a stiff bristle hand bush just to neaten up the surface. So if we work my way round doing this, round the front of the tree here. This isn't a very lengthy procedure. To repot a tree like this, you know, it's probably sort of a 10-minute job or so. If you know what you're doing and you've got everything to hand, it's not a difficult process. It's one that people worry about because if they haven't done it before, or they've worked on smaller trees, people can be wary about repotting a tree and trimming its roots. You needn't be worried about it. It's just something we do with bonsai, and it helps keep the tree healthy and vigorous. As we trim off old woody root, we get new, fresh, vigorous root in its place, and that will support the tree. So you've got an old tree here that's got a young, vigorous root system, and horticulturally that's very good. It maintains the vigour in the tree despite its age. So taking these weeds out with a brush, just cleaning off to expose these surface roots, which are quite a very nice feature of this tree. A little bit here and here. Getting rid of, this is a nylon bush with quite a soft bristle. We also have like a brass wire bush that's a little bit more rigid for some stubborn mosses and bits that you get. But if you're going to use that, you just have to be a little bit more careful with it. Back up again to the front of the tree, and a combination of a wooden chopstick or potting stick and this nylon bristle bush is making quick work of that surface and tidying it up. There's a few roots here that are growing upwards that we can take off. There's the mesh that we can take off the roots, and let's go round again, around the base, around the edge of the root ball, combing it out. Obviously it's been in a rectangular pot, so these corners can be teased out. Once we've done that, we can trim around with a pair of root scissors. Good strong pair of scissors, trimming around the root ball to reduce the diameter prior to repotting. And then some of these roots here, these are growing up too much. This bit here is, these sections here just can come back. And then underneath the tree, same as we've done around the edge, if we tilt it over so you can see, then underneath, again with the root hook, we want to comb out some of this old soil from the root ball, and then in with a pair of scissors to take a slice of root ball off the bottom of it, and to take off some of those roots that we've combed out. And again, we're going to put this tree back into the same pot. So by cutting this off like this, when it goes back in the pot it's come out of, there'll be fresh space in there, or more space I should say, for us to put fresh soil in so that it can put out more roots. So continuing around the root ball, taking a little bit of thickness of the underside. It's quite a shallow, flat root ball on this tree. This tree has been in training for a number of years, so it's a shallow, flat root system that allows us to get it into the pot quite easily. So once we've got that done, a little bit of a tidy up, and then we can just set the tree to one side for a minute, and then let's go back to the bonsai pot. So the bonsai pot that it came out of is still suitable for this tree in size and in shape. So we just take that bit of soil out of it. Give it a bit of a clean out. This particular pot is a handmade pot by Derek Aspinall. So before we pop the tree into the pot, yeah, it's worth just giving the pot a little bit of a wipe down. We don't want to scrub it too clean. This is an old handmade pot, and it does have quite a nice patina on it, but a little bit of a clean up won't harm. And then you can see there's still a piece of mesh in there from before. We can utilise that again, but these 4 drainage holes need covering up, so we'll get a bit of wire. This wire is going to hold the drainage mesh into the pot, and also it's going to secure the tree into the pot. So we're going to bend a piece of 2mm wire, pop it up through the drainage holes like that, and a second piece here like this through these drainage holes. There we go. Set it back down, and then you can use all sorts of mesh. I'm going to use this black rigid plastic mesh for this pot, and we're just going to cut 4 squares of that, and just place it, thread the wire through it, so it's like that over the drainage holes. Another piece here, another piece here. Okay, so with this being a handmade pot, the glaze does differ on it a little bit. There's a tiny little mark on it here, another one here. So just have a look at the pot and to decide which is the front of the pot and which is the back of the pot. And this face of the pot towards me here is the nicest tone of the glaze. So we're going to have that as the front of the pot. I'm going to be potting this tree into Akadama, Japanese soil, like so. And then we take our tree. I think I can get a little bit more Akadama underneath it. And then we'll settle the tree down into the pot, onto the Akadama, making sure we've got the right front of the tree is in here towards me, and it's in the correct position within the pot. And once it is, we can get the rest of the Akadama and we can fill in the space around the edge of that root ball. With fresh Akadama. Don't worry about the wires for now, we'll sort those out in a little while. So once the Akadama is in like this, we can use a potting stick just to work our way around, just sort of gently jabbing the Akadama. You'll see the soil level start to fall. This is just getting rid of air pockets in the soil and just helping to work the Akadama in up against the existing root ball of the tree. So it's an important process to do around here at the back of the tree. Make sure this is well worked in, and then once that's done we can level off this akadama a little bit. Do some round the back here. A few little roots want coming off just here. And then these wires, I'm just going to bring them, in this case I'm going to bring them over the edge of the root ball here, from front to back, over those roots, and these can come over the root ball here. Bring them up to meet at a right angle, and then just pull and then twist, just to take up the slack. And this is just going to secure the tree into the pot, so if it's windy it won't blow out the pot, or if a bird lands on it or something it won't fall out of the pot or wobble out of the pot. Any excess length of wire, just snip it off with your wire scissors and just neatly push that end into the soil. Same here with this one, same sort of thing, just twist it together, trim off any excess, and you never know they were there. And then finally, some of this akadama's got a little bit too much up that trunk. We can just redistribute this a little bit, again using our little brush, just to show off those surface roots. I don't want to cover them up too much, so just a little bit of tidying up around here. I say I do this every 2 to 3 years on these trees. With having so many, sometimes it's hard to know when they've last been done. So, but once you've got it out of the pot, it's quite a quick process just to do it. So now if we turn it round, let's just tidy up a little bit. There's the front of the tree towards you, all freshly potted, back into its original container. It's been in this pot for about 6 or 7 years. Every 2 or 3 years it comes out, root pruned, and goes back in. And we've trimmed the tree back and tidied that up. There's a couple of sections where I cut some branches off. We just need to put a little bit of wound sealant on them. I like to use this lap balsam wound sealant. And I'll just dab a little bit on my finger and dab it onto the cuts that we've made on the tree. Another one round this side, in here, look, just dab that on. It masks very well with the bark, so it prevents infection into the tree and cosmetically just hides that cut so you can't tell it's there. So again, nice little simple repotting procedure. You know, this is what we're busy doing at this time of year at the nursery, working on trees like this, trees of my own, trees like this that we have for sale, and also working on customers' trees that they bring up for us to organise at this time of year. Okay, so now we've lifted the tree outside to give it a water, because we put it into akadama, give it a good soak with a fine rose on a watering can. As you can see, we've had a little bit of snow here. We're doing this a little bit early in the season. We're filming this beginning of Feb. Ordinarily, if you could choose, you'd do this work sort of mid-March. But because it's a bit colder here, a little bit of snow on the ground, once this is watered, this tree is going to be put into just an unheated greenhouse, just to shelter it for the next few weeks until